we had a congressional letter signed by 54 members of Congress that was sent to President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas.
With Rod Talk, I'm trying my best to be able to bring to people's screens these incredible stories.
I do work as an immigration consultant. The top 5 countries with the highest number of refugees are DRC, Burma, Syria, Ukraine, and Sudan. TPS stands for Temporary Protected Status. Merci beaucoup, Rod, pour cette invitation, cette initiative. Donc, on parlait de TPS. Le TPS, c'est un statut de protection temporaire qui est accordé au pays.
Hey, welcome guys to Rad Talk. This is our other episode on many of these episodes that we've been doing since we started this adventure. We've been trying to bring to you guys the most powerful stories possible that we can have. So today I'm gonna be welcoming a guest who is very special. He's from the Democratic Republic of Congo, lives in the DC metropolitan area. Very active in the Congolese community, very active in social change, doing a lot of things to improve the lives of many Congolese folks. I'm welcoming Nills on the studio right now, so let's welcome him together. Hey, Nills, how are you?
Hi, Rod. I'm doing well.
Good.
And thanks for having me. Pleasure and an honor to be here.
Yeah, I've been, as you know, for a long time trying to get this episode.
Yeah.
We've been discussing about this for a while, and the reason is because I think it's important to be able to give our audience the opportunity to hear a story, to hear who you are as a person, and what are the things that you do here. Because every time when people see names, it's difficult to understand the actual story behind the names. So with Rad Talk, I'm trying my best to be able to bring to people's screens these incredible stories. And yours is one of those incredible stories that we'll be talking about today. So I think my main question is who are you? You know, that's a difficult question, but I would love to know who you are and what can people know about you.
Yeah, thank you, Rod. That's a good question. So my name is Nills Kinuani. I am a community leader, a human rights advocate, and an immigration professional. That's a little bit about me. So I do work as an immigration consultant, and I also serve as the immigration coordinator and the board director of the Congolese community of Washington Metropolitan. Just a little bit about me.
Okay, thank you. So when you say immigration consultant, it brings me to ask you a question, a little bit about, if you can elaborate as much as you can, about what you do as an immigration consultant on that aspect first, and then we go to what you do with the Congolese community.
So on that aspect, that includes advising businesses on their immigration programs, on how to build an immigration program for the company and for their employees that they want to sponsor for a work visa. So I should have said business immigration consultant. So
Okay, yeah. That's more clear, because when you say immigration, they can think that you're a paralegal or you apply for different benefits for people. Maybe you do something different. That's why I wanted to clarify that. But how was your journey coming from Congo? Like, at what time did you leave the Congo? Why did you leave the Congo? Why did you come to the U.S. specifically, and why Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, so I came to the U.S. So I moved in 2010, and I came to the U.S. primarily for school. So I just a typical journey for any student who comes to attend to pursue higher education here in the U.S. So that was the primary purpose for my move to the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why Washington D.C.?
I think this is because I had family members
Okay.
here, so they help facilitate the move. As you can imagine, I think it's always best to be somewhere where you have family members, friends, to help you with the process of settling in a new place, in a new environment.
Yeah, and I don't know what viewers know about moving to any new country, right? Where you might not speak the language, or you might not know many people, you might not understand most of the processes in that country. How that is a challenge. How was it for you personally when you first arrived in the U.S.? What was it like, your journey of
Yeah.
establishing or integrating in the U.S., in other
Yeah,
words?
yeah. Number one, culture shock. I think most people experience
Yeah.
it. We come from a very conservative, traditional culture in the DRC or in Africa in general.
Yeah.
And then that was, and then coming to this country, and then just seeing the different cultures here, not only because the US can be considered as a melting pot where most cultures mingle, and then so finding yourself in an environment with those different cultures, it was it was challenging for you to adapt, to adjust to such an environment. And then of course going to school, making friends with people from different background, different culture, that was another challenge. But also, and most importantly, the language, right?
Yeah.
So we come from a French-speaking country, and then moving here, we had to learn a language. So that was also challenging. But I'm so grateful for the people that were around me, family members and friends who really helped me get through those challenges.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say confidently that that is a big challenge. Cultural shock, reintegration in this country. I work with a lot of immigrants myself as part of my work, my profession, and most of the people find it very difficult to adjust here because of language barriers, because of the different cultures that they find here that sometimes they do not really connect with their background. And sometimes they could try to do things, but they find themselves limited, right? Because of thinking about the options. And those that have difficult immigration status is even worse. And those that could have, they could be permanent resident, but they still have challenges to adapt to get the better jobs. I've talked to doctors, I've talked to lawyers from different countries, especially French-speaking countries or African countries where they can't practice here, and it becomes a big challenge. They have the skills, they have the connections, they have the experience. They've been working in hospitals for years, but they get here, they have to rely on production companies or these manufacturing companies or whatever that they could get to feed their families, and it becomes a challenge. And I'm happy you didn't go through per se that process because you went to school here, so maybe it was a little bit different as a process for you. And I don't know if you meet people that share those kind of experience.
Oh yes, yes. So I not only work with people who had those experiences that you just described, but in my work with the community, and my own personal life, yes, we see people coming to the U.S. and having hard time, really fulfilling their dreams, and then just facing so many barriers, not only the language, right? Language is part of education, but education can also be another challenge. So yeah, I think um, again, that's also part of my work in the community, is to make sure that people like that have the resources that they need to improve the quality of their lives, to fulfill their dreams, and then to put themselves on the path of realizing the American dream. That's why we are all here, right? Like,
Yeah.
we want to live and realize that American dream. So I think that's part of my work within the community.
Good. And this is a curious question. Do you think for yourself that you've realized your American dream?
Well, I'll say I'm on the path, right? Like
Good.
it's a process, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't think we can most of us in the middle class, I don't think we can confidently claim that, but I believe I'm in the process.
Yeah, it's a process. It's
Yeah.
I made a short video about 2 weeks ago or a week ago, where I talked about what the American dream is. Many people think that having a very nice house on top of the mountain with a gazebo and pools and having, several cars, that's the American dream. But I think for me, the American dream is more of being able to sustain yourself in a new environment, or even if you're just American born citizen, being able to sustain yourself, to get the education that you want, to be able to afford things that you need in your life, and give the best to yourself and to your family. That is the American dream for me. And many people might have different, definitions of the American dream. But I think your story is very fascinating, but also inspiring to currently anybody that is working with immigrants. They are giving the best of themselves to be able to support this community, because the community is facing a lot of challenges. When we look at political narratives right now about immigration, there's a lot of very harsh political narratives about immigrants or immigration and so forth. And probably some of them is because they don't understand all the categories and the types of immigrants, or they don't understand the ins and outs of immigrants and the journeys that people go through to be able to sustain themselves in this country. So I want to know more about the Congolese community that you're part of. What do you exactly do?
Yeah. So my work with the community, number one, involves connecting connecting individuals or our members to resources, right? So we talked about people, needing to advance their education, and immigration is part of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you want to make sure that you have your legal status, and I think legal status will usually propel you to advancing your education, ultimately getting a fulfilling employment or job. So it's really connecting our members to those resources, right? And that's number one. And number two, putting in place a system where we can support our community, and we have implement a network of immigration law firms that provide services to community members at a discounted price, right? So, so our members today are able to go to these lawyers, these firms, and for their immigration needs, and get the help that they need, with a discount. And also advocacy, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But also advocating for immigration programs that will benefit our community here, not only our community here, I meant, but also the community in the U.S.
Yeah.
So throughout the country. So my work really revolves around that. So resources and and putting together the programs that can benefit the community and advocacy. So those are the three um, items that I work on in the community.
And so, speaking of the resources that you try to work to provide for the community or the things that you do, what is one tangible example of something that you have helped establish or you've been advocating for the Congolese community, for the community in general that you work with? And do you have anything concrete?
Yeah. By resources, and maybe I should have explained that. We had. I'll give you an example. A couple weeks ago, very recently, we had a family that um, um, came from the border. And then they were sent to this area, and they needed help. A mom with two small little kids, and we have to find resources for them, housing, right, medical resources. So we partner with different other organizations. If we can't provide those resources, we partner with other organizations that can provide temporary free housing for new immigrant family that need that, right? Or medical
That's incredible.
assistance, help for new families. And we were able to help this lady with those with her little
Yeah, so yeah, it's good if you can expand that those services or support to African communities or just immigrant communities in general, because the need is huge and the resources are very limited.
Right.
So it's good to have different options for people to be able to be supported. And so thanks for that work that you guys are doing, and also it's in DMV, so it's DC, Maryland, and Virginia. It's a huge metropolitan that we're talking about. How much do you think people need, and how much are you guys able to provide? Just I'm assuming it's a large pool of immigrants and refugees that need help, or any categories of migrants that would need help in this community.
Yeah, but it's work in progress, Rod. We certainly welcome any assistance, any help from either individuals or from other organizations. It's work in progress, and also we uh, we are seeing more and more Congolese African people coming to this area, so the help is needed. So any individual, any organization that want to help in this mission, in this type of work, they're very welcome.
Okay, so that's a call for organizations, individuals, people with good hearts that would want to support the work that Nills is doing here in the DMV, supporting immigrants and different categories of immigrants here to be able to either get work-sponsored visas or just get help in the immigration arena. So they should be able to reach out to you or contact you
Yeah,
if they
sure.
want to contribute.
And one of the things that Rod, sorry, I forgot
Yeah.
is uh, also connecting resources. Also means information, getting the right information to folks. An example is that in March of this year, we actually had a town hall meeting with USCIS representative.
Okay.
So we had USCIS representatives that came to talk to our community about certain immigration topics that were of interest to the community. So we do that often. We invite experts, either people from the government or people in the private sector to come and talk to us about a certain immigration topic, so that our people, our community members, can get the right information. Because as you know, knowledge is power. So making
That's
sure that
very important.
our
Yeah.
members get the right information.
Yeah, unless you have the right information, you always be likely ready to make mistakes because you don't know which one is right, which one is wrong, and what you should do, what you shouldn't do. So, thank you so much for your work, man. It's very commendable. I really appreciate talking to folks like you who are doing amazing work and job in the community in general. And I wanted to ask. I know you've been working hard in the TPS. For DRC, and although you didn't mention it, I think it's one of the biggest initiatives that you probably have been part of, and if not, you've been organizing to make it happen. And what is TPS?
Yep.
And why DRC? I think those are the two questions I have for you.
No, thank you. Good question. Yeah, I think, you know, TPS is part of the advocacy work, and I was going to get to that. Yeah. TPS stands for temporary protected status, and TPS is a blanket humanitarian relief that's granted to a country that's experiencing either of the three conditions or grounds. One is armed conflict. If a country is going through armed conflict, that country can be granted TPS. And number two is natural or environmental disaster. So if a country is experiencing or going through a natural disaster, that country can be granted TPS. And number three is extraordinary circumstances or conditions, and that make it unsafe for people from that country or citizens from that country to return to the home countries. So what does TPS does? TPS, as I say, it's a blanket humanitarian relief, meaning that TPS provide you with a legal status in the country. So for people who are folks who are undocumented or even they don't have permanent status, once they have TPS and they have legal status, and what that means is that you can't be deported, right? So TPS protects you from deportation. So we have that, and we have natural disaster in the DRC. The second requirement for TPS, natural disaster, we had. Rod, you know, there's a volcano eruption.
Yeah, it's from
in
my
2021.
city. I'm from Goma. So,
yeah.
So that happened. My family had to be displaced because of that.
Yeah. So that's ground for TPS. Yeah. We had volcano eruption in 2021. We have flooding now throughout the country. Flooding. I think the last one was December of last year, 2022. Yeah. And we had also one. I believe it was in May in South Kivu. I was actually visiting. I was actually in the country when
Calais.
that happened. Calais. Yeah. So you have that. You have natural disasters in the DRC, and you also have extraordinary conditions, circumstances. Ebola. You had COVID. Thank God it's now under control for the most part. So you have all those conditions. In the DRC, and those conditions warrant TPS because they meet the requirement for TPS. So that's why we have launched this campaign to have DRC designated for temporary protected status, and we believe that will provide great and much needed benefit to our community.
The TPS, if TPS is granted, because I know there's a process right now. I don't know where you guys are with the process of TPS being granted or potentially being granted, and if it's granted, what should people do to benefit from TPS?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first question. What have we done so far, and where are we in that process? So we launched the campaign in February of this year, and we sent a request letter to President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, because I should have said TPS is granted by the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Okay.
So we sent a letter to them. We described the conditions that I was just talking about in the DRC and why DRC meets the requirement for TPS. So that was in February. And we had, Rod, good thing, 115 organizations endorsed the letter, signed onto that letter. So the letter
That's
was
amazing.
Yeah, so the letter
That's really
were able
amazing.
to mobilize 115 organizations. So that was a big push. So that was in February, and we ultimately had meetings with DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, and that was a chance for us to talk about, present the conditions in the DRC and explain why we strongly believe that the DRC meet the requirement for TPS. So we had those meetings with them, and then so also we had days of action. We had a rally in DC in June to also voice this request that we want the government to designate to grant TPS to the DRC. And then recently we had a congressional letter signed by 54 members of Congress that was sent to President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas. That letter was led by Senator Cory Booker. You know, Cory Booker has been very vocal.
He's from New York?
New Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah.
Cory Booker has been very vocal about the DRC.
The DRC conflict.
And then Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from New York. So the two led this letter, and then and I'm really happy to share that we were able to get that that number of members of Congress signed onto the letter. So the letter was sent to President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas. We're expecting another meeting with them to go over the letter. And Rod, I'll be sharing the letter with you so you can also share with your listeners.
It'd be good to read to see what facts were shared in the letter, but also the actual condition in the country.
Right. And then we describe the fact that the conditions are sadly and unfortunately deteriorating. It's only getting worse, Rod, as you know, and you see in the news. We had the massacre in last month. Well,
in
that was
Goma.
June. I mean August.
Yeah.
August 30th, where over 50 people were just gunned down by army by the army, and we continue to see so many regions, and I can go on and on about this, in the country that are under control, that are not under the control of the government, and that are under the control of armed rebel groups, and those rebels groups are only really killing and doing all type of violence to the community there, to the individuals and the civilian population there, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, I think this is a very critical issue. The Congo is not in the news the way it's supposed to be. It's not very represented. The conflict is not very spoken about. For some reasons, it's one of the conflicts that not many people talk about, and it's an unfortunate situation. But here there's an effort to try to get some people from the Congo, get the support that they need so that they're not deported or sent back to a country that is not safe for them. And you've been at the core of doing that, advocating for that, pushing for that TPS designation to be a reality. And I'm thinking if that happens anytime soon, it'll be a big relief for many Congolese people that fear for their lives,
Yep.
that think that if they're sent back to Congo tonight, they might be killed tomorrow. Maybe they left their parents killed already.
Yep.
And maybe they're from Goma, where you can't just go. The government is killing its own people. The rebel groups are around the city. There's war, ongoing violence. There is a state of siege and everything.
Yeah.
So there's no way people can go today. Yeah. And I wanted you to say this in French, what you're trying to do, in shortly.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do with the TPS, because we have people that speak French from Congo, probably that will be benefiting from this. That might not be understand clearly what you guys are doing.
Before we switch to French, right? A few facts. DRC is the country with the highest number of refugees resettled in the U.S. And the top 5 countries with the highest number of refugees are DRC, Burma, Syria, Ukraine, and Sudan. So out of those 5, the DRC is the only one without the TPS designation. All 4, Syria, Burma, Ukraine, Sudan,
they have designation.
They have TPS. Because the government, the U.S. government, have found that they can deport people to those countries. Right? And part of the this fact, they also take into consideration the fact that these people have a large number of refugees in this country, in the U.S. So that by itself says a lot about the conditions in that country. So now the DRC is on top of that list, but does not have TPS. So I really think, and most people in this coalition, if you allow me, I'll also talk about the coalition that we have been able to put together here. But we believe that TPS is long overdue for the DRC, given the conditions, given all the other countries that are experiencing the same conditions, going through the same conditions as the DRC. They have TPS, but DRC is the only one without a TPS designation. And to close on that, Rod, before we switch to French, we have a coalition, and within that coalition, it's a very pan-Africanist or Pan-African coalition, where we are also pushing for TPS designations for other African countries that are going through armed conflict, natural disaster, or
like
unsafe conditions. Yeah, we have a campaign going on for Mauritania.
I think that's amazing. The work that you guys are doing. I want my French-speaking folks to be able to hear from yourself this initiative, TPS for DRC, but also for other African countries, and if you could elaborate and explain what you're doing and how that's going to benefit for them, I mean, that would be appreciated.
My French is rusty, but I'll try. So, merci beaucoup, Rod, pour cette invitation, cette initiative. Donc, on parlait de TPS. Le TPS, c'est un statut de protection temporaire qui est accordé aux pays qui sont en situation d'insécurité et qui vivent un conflit armé, ou qui subissent des catastrophes naturelles ou qui ont d'autres conditions extraordinaires qui font en sorte que les ressortissants de ces pays ne peuvent pas rentrer dans leur pays avec quiétude ou en sécurité. Et donc les TPS en français, est accordé à ces pays-là. Et ce qui fait en sorte que tous les ressortissants, et dès que le TPS est accordé à ces pays, tous les ressortissants de ces pays pourront en bénéficier. Et le TPS offre le permis de travail, c'est-à-dire avec le statut TPS, vous pouvez travailler, mais aussi vous protège contre la déportation. Donc, quand vous avez ce statut TPS, donc vous avez un statut légal aux États-Unis, donc vous ne pouvez pas être déporté. Et donc, ça vous donne cette stabilité-là. Et donc, voilà, nous avons commencé cette campagne parce que nous croyons que la RDC, évidemment, remplit toutes ces conditions de TPS. Nous avons envoyé notre demande au gouvernement américain. Nous avons eu le Congrès américain qui a aussi envoyé une lettre à l'administration, au gouvernement, pour dire la même chose, qu'ils soutiennent cette demande pour le TPS. Et donc nous pensons que c'est quelque chose qui va énormément bénéficier à notre communauté, non seulement congolaise d'ici, de la région de la région métropolitaine de Washington, mais aussi les communautés congolaises ou nos frères et sœurs congolais à travers les États-Unis. Donc voilà un peu le petit résumé en français.
Merci beaucoup. Je crois que si tu es congolais, je pense ce que je peux dire, si tu es congolais partout aux États-Unis et que tu rencontres ton congressman ou député national ou sénateur, c'est important de soulever la question du Congo, de soulever le problème que nous avons au Congo, de soulever les difficultés que les gens ont du Congo, soulever la guerre qu'il y a au Congo. Et s'ils ont quelque chose à dire, qu'ils puissent soutenir le processus ou la démarche pour le statut temporaire, pour de protection temporaire pour les Congolais. Ça fait longtemps que la guerre est au Congo et ça fait longtemps que l'on ne parle pas de cette guerre d'une manière qu'il le faut pour que la guerre s'arrête. D'abord, ce que nous cherchons, c'est que la guerre s'arrête au Congo, que les gens arrêtent de mourir, que cette hémorragie puisse être calmée, mais aussi que ceux qui sont ici soient protégés par les TPS. C'est ce que Nills était en train d'expliquer. Alors, nous allons tout faire pour mettre le contact de Nills. Pour ceux qui veulent être en contact, dans la description de notre vidéo, il y aura les contacts de Nills. Si vous voulez le joindre ou l'organisation avec laquelle il travaille, et vous pouvez avoir beaucoup plus de détails. So, I was saying we will try our best to put Nills' contacts on our description of this video, and so you can reach out to the organization, you can reach out to him if you have questions, if you want to support the initiative, if you want to be part of those voices that will speak louder so that the Congo is designated as one of the countries that benefit from the TPS program in the United States. And that was a great conversation. I wish we could speak more and learn more from Nills' experience. He's a great guy. If you're in DC, let me know. I'll hook you up. He's a nice guy to know here in the DC area. And he has been doing a lot of great work. I've been watching him for a long time. The work that he does. I came to the rally in Washington, D.C. a couple of times. We met a couple of times, and it's been an amazing journey for me to get to know him. So thanks for joining this Rad Talk today.
Thank you, Rad.
We'll be sharing more videos like these, people like Nills who are impacting our community, who are doing amazing work. We want you guys to keep suggesting us the guests that we should bring on the studio, and so that we can talk, you can learn from their stories. If you know any immigrant that is doing an amazing job in your area, let me know. I'll do my best to travel to where they are. Today I came to DC, and I can reach them wherever they are, and we'll record their stories, and they will talk to you the same way Nills was talking to us today. So do you have any last word that you want to tell to our viewers? And you can look on that specific camera and say anything in 1 minute.
Thank you, Rod. I think you have said it all. Please join the campaign if you can. Talk about even on social media, and then Rod will be sharing my contact information. I will love to connect with anyone who would like to support our efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nills. It was a pleasure. This was an amazing episode. Thanks for watching Rad Talk and tuning in today. Again, until next time, stay blessed, connected, and I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you.
Thank you, man.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Thank you.
This was
Thank
great.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.